Thank you for joining me. I'm Alex, and I would like to talk to you about FedEx because last video was about UPS, and as I often do, I look at similar stocks right after another so that you can kind of compare them. I'll put it up there, I think. So obviously very similar companies with very similar goals and very similar business models. And doing the same thing, mostly delivery of packages, even across continents, with documents like even overnight. Overnight is sometimes in quotes, but still. Current price $161, and the market cap is $42 billion, so less than half of what UPS has, but dividend yield also half of what UPS does, with a payout ratio of 147%, which is kind of deceptive, but it applies both to the current year and the last business year. Before that, their earnings were a lot higher, so the payout ratio was obviously a lot lower. Current revenue $70 billion, which UPS only does 72. Earnings $540 million. Obviously, UPS does 10 times that. But if you don't look at the last year, but the year before that, their earnings were over $4 billion. So kind of similar to what UPS does now. PE 95. Obviously, if we don't take this year, but the year that they made $4 billion, the PE would have been a lot lower. And I'll talk about that later. Total assets $54 billion, total liabilities $37 billion, and a total stockholders' equity of $18 billion, which is 6 times what UPS does, or has at this point. So, obviously, revenue looks slightly worse than UPS, but growing where UPS is shrinking. Earnings looks a lot worse than what UPS does. Dividend yield is half of what UPS does, but the balance sheet looks so much better. FedEx was hit pretty hard by announcing that they would stop doing business with Amazon, which apparently isn't all that much of business that FedEx actually does with Amazon at this point. And Amazon obviously has their own delivery network that they're trying to build to be more independent of the other delivery companies. So obviously that loss would have happened eventually anyway. There's no need to postpone the loss. And I think that it's kind of the right strategy to just, cut your losses now. I can't imagine Amazon being a very profitable company for FedEx because they ask for so many discounts and they get so many discounts because they're shipping a lot of packages, and obviously the whole volume discount is kind of a weird thing right there. I have to cover that up. Please don't notice it. So, according to Yahoo Finance, the forward PE of FedEx is less than 12, which would mean that the stock is very cheap right now. And I think that the problem the earnings are so low is other expenses, which is never a problem for me because that means it's not really recurring. It can recur, but it's not something that needs to be addressed for many years. Otherwise, it would be a line item in the income statement anyway. So other expenses for me are not a problem, which is why I think that this stock at a PE of 95-ish would still be a buy. So with a forward PE of under 12, I think the stock is cheap enough, and obviously with about the same revenue, about the same earnings, and a way better balance sheet, this stock is a much better buy than UPS was yesterday, and I think UPS was a solid buy yesterday. Dividend is fairly low. Payout ratio obviously high right now, and not too low usually. So I think that I mean, if they had 10 times the earnings they do now, which is not the case, but it's somewhat close. So say they have about 7 times the earnings right now, then the payout ratio would be about 20-25%, which is a very nice payout ratio. So all things considered, I think even for a dividend investor, this might be a buy, because while the dividend is low, if you're holding onto the stock long enough, it's obviously going to increase, and the balance sheet looks amazing. So overall, I think that for a dividend investor, you should look into this company, and a value investor should also definitely look into this company. For a value investor, this balance sheet is a lot better than UPS. So I would, for both, I would prefer FedEx to UPS at this point. That's it for me for today. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. I'm coming out with more videos every day before market open. I hope you have a successful day.